friends, this is Hedda. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another installment in my series about my reading journal. This is my reading journal. It's an A5 sized notebook with dot grid paper, 160 GSM paper, which means that each page is quite thick. This type of paper is for those who don't want anything that they write to kind of shine through the paper, if that makes sense. In this video, I make a cover page where I write all of the books that I read that month, and then I make one spread for each book that I read. September was a little bit of a strange reading month for me. Here's a little sneak peek of my September cover page. But before we get into making spreads in my reading journal and talking about the books that I read in September, I want to say a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Skillshare is an online learning platform that offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people like you and me. They have classes on pretty much anything: photography, graphic design, video editing, any kind of hobbies that you can think of. Skillshare probably has it. One thing that I really like about Skillshare is that when you're a member, you get unlimited access to all of their classes. So no nonsense about only being able to do one or a certain number of classes each month. No, you can do as many as you want. You can follow along, you can do a little bit at a time, or you can do it all at once. It really just depends on what kind of learner you are. Skillshare has classes from people who are experts at their field. So you get really valuable insight and really great tips from these professionals. And there's also a community among the learners, so you can share your progress and you can submit projects. There's a lot of interactive stuff that you can do. And here is the best part. The first 500 people to click the link in my description box will not only get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare, they'll also get 40% off an annual membership to Skillshare. So definitely check that out and don't miss out on this amazing opportunity to use Skillshare to hone your skills, learn new hobbies, or just have fun with learning and exploring. So check out the link down below. And now let's get into my reading journal. You might think that I would go for a fall theme for my September cover page in my reading journal, but you would be wrong because I went in the exact opposite direction this time. I'm not quite sure what happened because I have a lot of beautiful fall themed stationery, but for some reason I wanted to do a pink cherry blossom theme. So you saw me get out all of these beautiful stickers from Lila Journals. Most of these I think I got in the mail in May, but I haven't really had a chance to use them yet because the delivery took a really long time and spring was pretty much over when they got here, and I don't want to wait until next year, so I'm gonna use them now. And that's what's so great about my reading journal, because I don't have to follow any themes, I don't have to follow any rules. And so my order came with a bunch of these cutouts, which are not stickers, they're just printed on regular paper. It's like a thicker paper and then cut out, so they don't have a sticky back. But I decided to use these before starting to use the stickers because the loose pieces are harder to store. I came to regret it later though, because the glue stick that I bought a new glue stick and it was really bad and made everything really difficult. But anyway, I wanted to use this large frame that is on one of her frame stickers. I actually bought this frame sticker sheet again just a couple of days ago together with her oval frames. I really love the frame stickers and I like that they're so big. And I wanted to make this book themed, even though it was mostly going to be cherry blossoms. So I got this book page out and I cut it so that it would be just slightly smaller than the frame, and then I could just glue down the book paper and then put the sticker on top. I have to say, placing frame stickers, especially large ones like this one, is quite difficult because they're so thin and they have to fit perfectly, and you can't have any crinkles or wrinkles because then it won't fit right. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but of course I am a veteran when it comes to placing stickers, so I managed it. I wanted to keep this cover page fairly simple. It didn't end up as simple as what I had in mind, which is just typical of me, that the collage just kind of gets a mind of its own and just grows into something bigger than what I had intended. But for the left page at least, I just wanted to have that frame, and then I placed a little bit of washi tape kind of at the top and the bottom, just slightly behind the frame. This way there would be just a little bit more interesting stuff happening on this page. Moment of truth happening right here as we speak. At least it was a paper sticker and not one of those like clear vinyl stickers, because those really just like cling to the page. But this one was fine. I only had slight problems. I then went in with the cutouts and kind of figured out which ones I wanted to use on this page. I wanted it to look like the branches were kind of growing along the frame. And then I wanted to use this sticker from Sibylline Maynet. It's one of her Patreon stickers that I got recently. It has cherry blossoms and really beautiful colors, and I thought that the green-blue colors would be a nice contrast to all of the kind of more neutral tones. And the pink on the spread. There are also some herons, and it's just a beautiful sticker, and it needed a moment to shine. And framed by Lila Journal stickers, I just think that it looks really pretty. For the September title, I just went with one of my own stickers actually. This is from the pink months of the year sticker sheet that I have in my shop. Looking at the spread now, I think maybe I could have used a darker color. I could have probably had the title in black, but when I was making it, I wanted to keep the colors pretty neutral and light. So that's why I picked this particular sticker. It's kind of silly that in the end I didn't use any of the actual stickers of these cherry blossoms because I only used the paper cutouts. I did use some frame stickers though from Lila Journals, because those are the frames that I used for writing the books that I read in September. But all of the cherry blossoms and the butterflies and everything that you see here, those are all just paper cutouts that I glued down with my awful glue stick, which is from Søstrene Grene, by the way. I would not recommend. At least the one I got was really bad. Other than the paper cutouts and the frames, I used some washi tape from Notebook Therapy. These are from a couple different sets. I think they worked really well in combination with the old book pages and the sheet music and everything. I even ended up using some stamps from Notebook Therapy, and I used the brown stamp pad because I thought that the brown would look nicer instead of using black. Black can easily get a little bit too black, you know? And especially working with all of these lighter colors, I felt like the brown was a better choice. It's maybe not the most intuitive, but for this right side of the spread, I kind of started at the bottom of the spread and worked my way upwards. It made the end a little bit challenging, like figuring out where everything should go. And I think because I was working with so many smaller pieces, that's why it was a little bit difficult to build it exactly how I had envisioned it. So it looks a little bit messy maybe, but I quite like how it turned out in the end. I like layering stamps underneath stickers and having the stamps just kind of peek out underneath the stickers. I think that looks really nice. I'm also happy that I got to use a few washi tapes that I haven't actually used before, that have just been sitting there waiting for me to use them. For my title, I used the alphabet stamps from Notebook Therapy, the typewriter edition, and I wrote books I read in September with the stamps. It was a bit of a challenge, not gonna lie. I had to fit a lot of them into this little frame. It looks a little bit messy, but I'm not mad about it. I also think that it looks pretty cute. The final touches are just some sparkles, of course. I used my brown Zebra Sarasa gel pen, and this was actually the end of this pen's life. And I've been using it in a lot of my reading journal videos, and I was writing down my thoughts on the first book spread here, and it was just dying. So yeah, it is the end of it, unfortunately. Now we're gonna move on to the first book that I read in September, and this is a really old book. This is the first Harry Potter book. This edition is from the year 2000. This is the very same book that my dad used to read to me before I went to bed. Back then I would have been like 7 years old. It was one of my first meeting with novels, probably my first meeting with the genre of fantasy in this way. I've reread this book 100 times probably, but it's been maybe over 10 years since I read it last, maybe more, probably 13 years or something like that. And following last month when I was kind of just rereading some comfort books, I just kept going in that direction. I'm just gonna tell you right now, September is all rereads. I didn't read any new books in September. I only read books that I had already read before, one of them being the first Harry Potter book, and I read it in Norwegian. I don't read that many Norwegian books, but this one I have to read in Norwegian. It is the language that I was introduced to Harry Potter, and it just feels right to read it in Norwegian. It's so silly. The Norwegian translation has like all different names and names for places, and they're all translated into Norwegian, and it's just really fun and silly. You might notice that I'm only decorating or like starting to decorate one side of the spread, and that's because for rereads I kind of just do one-page setups for the book, because since it is the second or the 40th time that I'm reading a book, I don't have as much to say about it maybe as I would when it's the first time. And this time what I'm writing about is more things that I noticed more now that I maybe didn't notice when I read it as a child. And because I've also watched the movies several times, and those are maybe fresher in my memories because I watch them maybe like once a year. I noticed a lot of differences, and it just made me feel once again that the books are just so much better than the movies. And you know, when they announced that there was maybe going to be a TV show, a remake kind of, but in a series format, I actually don't think that it's a bad idea, because the books lack a lot of details and a lot of personality in the characters too. Like, Harry is so funny. He has such a vivid inner imagination, and it's just really funny, like all of the images that pop into my head when I read these books. It's just really funny. The Harry Potter themed stickers that you see me using here are from Vinka, and I will put a link to our Etsy shop in the description box. I've had these for a really long time, and I finally had a really good reason to use them, and I was able to use it on the other side of the spread too, because guess what? I also read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. So yeah, I didn't actually read them right after one another, but it just felt right to have them on the same spread like this because it's in the same series. And you might notice that I am writing the title in Norwegian, not in English. So instead of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, it's Harry Potter og de vise stein. I know that I am not unique in the sense that I grew up with Harry Potter. I mean, I was waiting for that letter when I was 11. My dad read the first and the second books to me, and then I think from the third one on, I read them myself. I remember waiting for the books to come out, and by the time the sixth one came out, I was too impatient to wait for the Norwegian translation, so I read them in English, which was really confusing after having all the names in Norwegian and suddenly they were in English. That was a strange experience, but it's what had to be done because I had to know what would happen in the story. And I know there is this like witch hunt against J.K. Rowling, and a lot of people in the book community are gonna say that they will never read a J.K. Rowling book because of her personal views. And to that, I'm kind of just gonna say the same thing I did in my previous reading journal video, and that is that I think that a literary work, a novel like this, a fictional novel, can kind of stand on its own. And I don't think that because characters do a certain thing, that means that the author endorses it. And likewise, I also don't think that everything that happens in a book is because of an author's personal views. There are many things that I disagree with when it comes to J.K. Rowling's personal views, but that's not going to stop me from enjoying the story. That is such a big part of my childhood and such a big part of why I became so fond of reading. It helped me so much in school because I practiced reading in English because of Harry Potter. I got really good at English. I had top grades in English classes for as long as I can remember, really. We didn't have grades in elementary school, but like as soon as we started with grades in middle school and high school, I always got top grades in English. And it's because I got good at writing because I got good at reading. Being good at reading is such an important skill. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that Harry Potter taught me how to read, because it really did. The first 2 Harry Potter books are really short and cute, and I really enjoyed reading them, but I think I gave them both 3 stars, because they're not like excellent, but they were really fun. Since I already told you that I only did rereads this month, you might be able to guess that this next spread will also be 2 books in one. I kind of set up the spread exactly the same way as the spread for Harry Potter because it just worked really well, and I quite enjoyed the format of just having the 2 frames on each page and containing each book within that frame. So that's what I did, but this time I went for a fall theme. This pet tape is from Notebook Therapy, and I went the extra mile and used my X-Acto knife to cut off some of the excess tape because I wanted more room for writing. All you need to do exactly what I did is to just have a really sharp blade on your X-Acto knife, preferably a brand new one, and then you just go over the tape with a really light hand. You don't want to press down too hard because then you can cut and damage the paper underneath. But if you just use a light hand and just push down slightly, then you're good to go. Basically just practice. I needed to practice too to be able to do it. It's a really pretty fall leaf pet tape, and I ended up making this spread fall themed, but also with stickers from Leela Journals again. I just wanted to use more stickers from Leela Journals. It wasn't enough with just the cover page, so that's why they got a repeat. I might also just be on a Leela Journals high because she just released these new notebooks and they're beautiful, and I bought 2. I'm waiting for them to arrive in the mail and I'm really excited about them. So yeah, I just had her on my mind, I guess, and then that became these spreads. Her stickers are very light in color, like very neutral toned, not a lot of contrast. And so I think that the perfect way to use them is in combination with brighter colors, because when layered on top of these book pages and the orange and the red in these fall washi and pet tapes, I feel like they really get to shine because the contrast between the bright colors and the pale colors of the stickers works really well, in my opinion. But let's talk about the books. The other 2 books that I read in September were Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. These are the 2 first books in the Throne of Glass series, if you're not counting Assassin's Blade. And I think I mentioned it in my previous video that I am going to read Assassin's Blade, but I'm going to read it after Heir of Fire. So I'll read it as book number 4 instead of as book number 1. I also have this idea that I'm going to do the tandem read with the Tower of Dawn book, because I haven't tried that before and that could be kind of fun. So I'm following this guide that I found online. I think that with rereads, it's just nice to read the books a little bit differently than you did the first time, because then it feels like a new experience, even though you're reading them for the 2nd time or 5th time or whatever. For me, it is the 2nd time that I'm reading the Throne of Glass books. I already noticed a lot of things that I didn't notice the first time I read them. I feel like I focused on them a lot better this time than the last time I read them. The first time I read them, I listened to the audiobook, and I am listening to the audiobooks this time as well. I just really like the narrator. I feel like she did a really good job, and I'm playing it at like 1.3x, which is the sweet spot for me when it comes to audiobooks. And it works quite well. Also, because I only read books that I already had, I didn't actually spend any money on books in September. So that's great. That means double the spending budget for October, right? Okay, look here. I messed up the stamp. It didn't stamp the inside of the stamp. Like an idiot, I tried to stamp it again, which never works because you never fit it exactly how you fit it the first time, and it still didn't stamp the inside, so it was just a waste. So I tried to cover it up with some washi tape and a big sticker, and yeah, it worked. It worked quite well. I really hate when that happens, when the stamp just doesn't stamp correctly. And I know why it happens. It's because of the surface just wasn't as flat as it should have been, because I was stamping towards the inside of the book, and because of the spine, it's raised a little bit from the table and it's not perfectly flat. I'm also nearing the end of my journal, so it's a little bit thinner on the right side. So when you push the stamp down, it's not flat. So lesson learned. I mean, I kind of knew it already, but I guess I needed to learn it again. These things happen, and I just wanted to highlight it to show you that it's okay, because it's never perfect. Stamps always make a mess. No matter what I do, they will always make a mess. I embrace it. It's just how it is. I still love the look of stamps, and I'll keep making messy stamps. Now, it turns out I have read some rumors that Graphic Audio will be releasing dramatized versions both of Throne of Glass and Crescent City. And like I mentioned in my previous video, I had this idea that I would reread all of Sarah J. Maas's books before January, because that's when Crescent City 3 is coming out. It's not necessary to reread Throne of Glass for that, but I just wanted to reread those again. Anyway, that means that I'm gonna be broke because I'm gonna need to read listen to all of Graphic Audio's dramatized versions as well. But the good thing is that they probably won't all come out at the same time. Especially Throne of Glass, there's a lot of books in that series, so it's probably going to take a while until all of the books are out. So maybe I can be patient and wait until more of the books are out, and then I can just listen to all of them all at once. So that's my plan at the moment. But yeah, I'll still probably read 1 or 2 Maas books every month until I run out of them. What have I started? Now I need to finish Harry Potter 2. But I also want to read new books. And October is my spooky month. So I want to read spooky books. And although Harry Potter can kind of go into that Halloween category, I don't think Throne of Glass can. So we'll see how that goes. You guys gave me some great suggestions for spooky books on my previous video, and I'm still open for suggestions. I haven't decided completely on all the books I'm gonna read in October, and things change and I never know how many books I read, so it might be a lot or it might not be. Anyway, here is a little flip through of all of the books that I read in September with my cover page and everything filled in with the books that I read. I think this is the first time in the history of my reading journal videos that I only have rereads. I'm not really that worried about it though, because I never made a Harry Potter spread in my reading journal since it's been too long ago that I read them. Throne of Glass, I think I read in the early winter of 2022, so it's been at least 1.5 years since I read those the first time. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more journaling videos from me, I really recommend subscribing. Definitely click that like button because that really helps my channel. I have this dream that we're gonna get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be really cool. It would be such a great Christmas present. A big thank you to my patrons who are awesome. You know who you are. There's a link to my Patreon in the description box, as well as links to all of the products in this video that I used that I have links for. A big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Remember that the 500 first people to click the link in the description box will get a 1-month free trial to Skillshare, as well as 40% off an annual subscription to Skillshare. So if you're interested, definitely jump on that. And with that, all that is left to say is that I hope that you're all having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!